After having to follow the climatic battle between All Might and All For One, we find ourselves wondering what All Might's fate is going to be after being exposed to the world, and what the world has to offer the League now that All Might has been exposed. What is going on, My Hero Academia fans? Welcome to My Hero Academia Season 3 Episode 50 review, entitled End of the Beginning, Beginning of the End, as we lead into next week's exciting episode of My Hero Academia Season 3 Episode 51, as we begin to settle down after having to follow such a titanic battle between All For One and All Might, and the symbol of peace is dead. The symbol of peace is dead according to All Might himself, as the spark within him has finally burnt away. Now, I really do enjoy how the beginning of this episode started off with the commissioners having to speak on Shigaraki, and how the world now has been exposed to what All Might truly is. Having to only rely on one person to get the job done isn't really what they're going for now that All Might has nothing left to offer. Now, I really do enjoy the engagement between All Might, because we see him wrapped in bandages, we see him basically look down upon himself and wondering how his once master Shimura basically gave her blood for the symbol of peace, and I really do enjoy the engagement process behind All Might, because he swore that he wanted to get a hold and find Shigaraki as best as he could, but I also love how some of the counterpoints were, okay, if All Might were to find him, then what? He's going to hesitate. He's not looking at Shigaraki as a villain anymore now that he knows the truth, and this entire episode basically surrounded itself around All Might having to basically have some sort of an inner conflict within himself now that he's been exposed to the world, but also having to do something about the power that was once given to him and passed down, as he feels guilt, as he feels remorse, and he desperately wants to find Shigaraki, but then again, he's in no condition to do so to begin with, as the position of being number one is basically open to the world. As Shota goes home with All Might being put aside, the number one position right now is basically open. He sees his father training. Nobody seems to accept this. However, when Midoriya goes home, he checks his phone and the world is talking about the exposure of All Might. Everyone is basically taking pictures and having video evidence of who the real All Might is. And as Midoriya falls asleep, what I really did enjoy is how out of nowhere he begins to get a phone call. He leaves his house and he meets All Might at the same beach that he cleaned up in the first season. And as they're running towards one another, it looked like they had some sort of like a romantic kind of scene, until all of a sudden All Might gave him the Texas punch and knocked him on down to the ground. I really enjoyed that, because Midoriya was so concerned about All Might, and All Might played along as he ran towards Midoriya with an open-armed kind of feel, until he punched him right in the face and saying, "You really don't keep your word, do you?" And I really did enjoy that, because Midoriya didn't really know what to expect. So even battered and bruised, he's still there. He's still there to talk to Midoriya. Why? Because ever since the first season, he had lots of hope and he saw lots of potential within Midoriya to begin with. And this is what really got me, especially for this scene. Now, I never liked the fact that Midoriya always cried. I always felt like it kind of took away from his character, especially after having to grow up. Yeah, he cried when he was in Season 1 and a little bit of Season 2, but now in Season 3, he still acts the same way, and I really did not like that. Especially here, however, there was a reason for him to cry. And if there was ever a better reason for him to cry, this would have been it, because after All Might had knocked him down, he told Midoriya every single time, "I tell you not to step in a fight, you step in a fight and you end up destroying your body." And Midoriya didn't know what to say. He's on the floor, he's kind of aching and he's hurt by these words that All Might is saying, but then All Might said, "But Midoriya, however, with you having to take action this time and not destroy your body, I am exceptionally proud of you, and from here on in, I am going to do whatever I need to do and help raise you to become a better hero." And that was really touching, because imagine your idol, your hero, taking you under their wing and accepting you fully and trying to raise you and allow you to become a better person. That's what basically happened here. And you can resonate with that, because you can feel the emotions behind Midoriya, even All Might, as he began to cry, because at this very beach was where it all began, with All Might having to take Midoriya under his wing and allowing him to clean the beach, basic training to allow him to grow as a character. So this is basically the culmination of All Might telling Midoriya the one for all power that was once within me is now gone. It doesn't mean that it's the end, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to help you. Which basically coincides with the title, The End of the Beginning and the Beginning of the End. The beginning of the end aspect is All Might having to retire as being the guy, the symbol of peace of the world, and it's going to be the end of the beginning in allowing something else to come about where new heroes are spawned. And that's where the principal of the UA University basically came out to All Might and saying, listen, we need to implement a better training system in allowing our students to better develop as heroes. Now the threat is still there, Shigaraki and other villains out there that are in the world. However, with that, we need to allow our own students to become the next symbol of peace. And with that, we saw how Eraserhead and All Might had to go to the families of these students to persuade them and talk to them about what's going to happen and the plans they plan on initiating in allowing this to go down. And I'll be the first one to admit, going to Bakugo's house was the best, because as his mom smacked him across the head, he looked up and saying, "Don't smack me, old lady, I'll kill you." And then she smacked him again and saying, "It's not my fault that you're weak. You got caught and now you're causing everyone trouble. It's your fault for being weak." So they have a really rocky relationship. And what's funny to me is Bakugo's mom looks just like him, with the hair being slightly different and whatnot, but still just as aggressive as Bakugo, I would have to say. So you can kind of tell where he gets his attitude from, or at least for the most part, in looking at how his mom is functioning. And even after his parents agree for Bakugo to go off and train to become a better hero, what I really enjoyed, Kacchan really had the balls to walk up to All Might and saying, "Hey, listen, let me ask you, what is Deku to you?" Or Midoriya in this case. And All Might stood quiet and saying, "He's just my student, just like you, a future hero with bright prospects." And Kacchan wasn't buying it at all, which I really grew to like this moment, because you can feel the disappointment and the tension in the air as All Might was saying to himself, "I'm sorry, young Bakugo, I can't tell you much after this." And we see how he walked away and saying, "You know what, it's okay, I know you don't want to tell me, but thanks anyway." So he walks away and All Might is looking at him like, "Damn kid, I can't tell you anymore," because I think Kacchan knows. Kacchan at this point has caught on that All Might has a different relationship with Midoriya in favoring him more so than the other students, which in fact is true. Until of course we get to Midoriya's house. Now I really do enjoy how All Might was walking by and he saw toys and posters and books and pictures and everything you can imagine of a fanboy wanting to admire you so much and be just like you in his room. He walked by and he was like, "Oh man, and this is the kid that I took under my wing. He's such a fanboy." But when it came down to All Might basically having to talk to his mom about bringing him back on board to the UA and having a dorm, that's when his mom said no. As a parent, I was scared, but as a civilian, I was very thankful in what you did, but I'm very concerned for my child. She's very concerned for Midoriya because his arms are beginning to lose function, and if he continues doing this, if he continues in using this quirk of his, he's going to lose the ability to move his arms permanently, which that's what his mom explained to All Might in saying, "Listen, I'm concerned for my kid and I don't want to go through with this." Which you can kind of understand, especially if you're a parent, in looking at what your child is potentially having to get himself into by fighting villains similar to what All Might was fighting with on TV. So obviously his mom didn't want him to go through with that as a scared parent, but the world needs heroes now. Now that All Might has stepped down and retired, the world needs heroes because villains have not gone away. Which I understood personally where she was coming from, but she was acting like such an asshole because she told All Might, despite the type of hero you are and or were, you weren't able to protect the students. You weren't able to protect the students from getting hurt, and I don't want to put my son through that. She even went as far as to say, "I wish my son was quirkless and only watching from a distance and not getting involved," which I understood as a parent. No parent would ever want their child to go through anything, and you can only understand if you wanted to be a hero and everything you would do to accomplish that dream just to have your parent go, "No, I don't want you to achieve that or become that because I'm scared for you." It was really messed up, and I really did favor Midoriya in this because although as a parent I completely understood where Midoriya's mom was coming from, she still had no right to tell Midoriya how to go about his life because he's becoming an adult. Even though she was scared and admitted admitted she doesn't have nerves of steel, she still went as far as to crap on Midoriya right in front of his idol. But that's when he came back into the room as he stormed off with a letter from the very boy who hated heroes to begin with, thanking him and apologizing for punching him in the balls, but rather saving him even though he didn't know the individual. And after he showed this letter to All Might, he told his mom, it doesn't have to be UA, it could be anywhere, I just want to become a hero. That's all I've ever wanted to do, ever. That's all I ever wanted to do. It's my dream. And All Might at this point is saying to himself, this is heartbreaking, but you already are a hero. And he got on his knees after transforming into his buff form and basically apologizing for coming out of order, but told his mom and Midoriya, I want Deku to basically succeed me. I want him to be the person that is my successor. And you can only imagine for your own idol, for the person that you follow in their footsteps, to come down and kneel to you and saying, please, I want you to succeed me, I need you. And that really resonated with Midoriya so much because this is what he's always wanted. He's always wanted to be the next All Might, or All Might per se, ever since he was a kid, and this was his chance to do so. And by the end, after All Might had made his speech, we see how Midoriya's mom also got on her knees and she was like, listen, I can't take away this kid's dreams. After hearing his speech, all she asked for is if Midoriya is going to live in UA and being taken care of over there, all she asks is for the protection of her son in raising him right. And All Might by the end saying, I promise, really embodied what it was for Midoriya to get this far as a quirkless person and becoming something that he's always been wanting to become since he was a little boy. So this episode to me, although it had little to no action at all, was basically a setup as to what's going to happen once everyone goes to UA and living there and growing as not only as heroes, but as a family as well. This was a really fun episode, even though I really did enjoy last week's episode that much more. This was a really good developmental episode in order to build to what's coming, and for me at least, I can't seem to find any episode from My Hero Academia that's less enjoyable than what we see week after week after week, even though this was different in the aspect of growth, because last week was all action and this episode was all developmental. I really did enjoy this episode because you get to feel what this kid is going through, and then finally after having his mom change his mind before his very idol, that really resonated with him in becoming the best, and becoming the next All Might and superseding him to become the next symbol of peace. So in the end, guys, let me know what you all thought down in the comment section below. How do you guys feel about the relationship between All Might and Deku? What are your thoughts on Kacchan having to catch on? What are your overall thoughts for next week's episode? Let me know in the comment section below, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys want more My Hero Academia content, make sure you guys go ahead and slap a like down below. Drop a comment, as it always does help out the channel as well. Also, check out the official My Hero Academia playlist down below in case you guys want to go ahead and check out more episodes and reviews from me. Thank you all so much for watching, guys, once more, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Cue my motherfucking outro, bitch.